Hi and welcome to today's YouTube video. So in this playlist, you are going to learn how to build a full stack to-do list website in Django. So this is going to be a demo video of what we are going to build. So I would like to log in here, and so let me log in with my details. And once I log in, we are going to be brought to this page. So here we can add a task. We can say this. No, okay, we already have that. Let's say wash clothes. We can say wash clothes, and we can see that wash clothes has been added. And we can also delete a task, and we can mark a task as finished. For example, let me mark Ozark as finished. So if I hit finished, you can see it has changed to completed. And we can also log out, and we can register. So this is a full stack website that we are going to be building in Django. Now from this playlist, you are going to learn how Django authentication, validation, and user creation works. You are going to learn how to filter the database or write queries to the database well. You are going to learn about models. You are going to learn about URL routing, and basically you are going to learn the basics of Django. And this is a perfect project for a beginner. Personally, this was my first full stack project that I built in Django. So let me just give a quick demo again. Let's log in. This website is hosted on Heroku. So basically this is it. We can add a task. Please subscribe, and we can see it here. We can delete a task. We can mark a task as completed. So this is what we are going to be building in this playlist. Please like, share, subscribe, come back for more, and I hope you enjoy this playlist, and I hope you learn a lot. Hello and welcome to today's YouTube video. So in this section of this playlist, you are going to learn how to set up a Django project. So the first thing that we need to do is open your command line. And once in your command line, I want you to cd into where you want this project to be. So I am going to cd into where I want the location to be. So I'm going to say desktop and tpg. So once you have cd'd into where you want this project to be, I want you to create a new folder, and inside this folder, all our files and folders for our project are going to be stored in there. So just write the command mkdir, which stands for make directory, and to do, or whatever you choose to name this folder. So once you do that and we say dir, we can see we have a folder named to do. So what we need to do is cd into to do, which is folder we just created. Let me clear up my screen. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to create a virtual environment for our Django project. So a virtual environment basically is an isolated working environment on your computer that you can create. And it is advised to always use virtual environments when you're working on a new Django project. So for us to create a virtual environment, we need to install one library first. So I want you to run the command pip install pipenv. Now once you run this command, it's going to install pipenv for you. Now it says requirement already satisfied for me because I already have it installed. So once you've installed pipenv, I want you to run the command pipenv shell. Now once you do this, this command is going to create a new virtual environment for you on your computer. As you can see, it says creating virtual environment. So and the virtual environment is going to be named whatever your current working directory is. Now because our current working directory is to do, we can see the virtual environment has been named to do. Then we have this extra text there. So now we've created a virtual environment and it has been activated. The next thing we need to do is now install Django. So we do that by saying pip install Django. Pip install Django. So this command is going to install the Django web framework for us on our computer. Now please, I want to take this time to say please kindly subscribe to my channel and like my videos, and feel free to comment if you have any issues, and I will definitely reply in the comment section. So it has installed Django right now, and then the next thing we need to do is we need to start a project. That is, Django is divided into different sections. We have the project, and then we have the app. Now each app serves as you can choose to make each app an individual functionality. Like for example, let's say I'm building a social site like Facebook. The chatting section of the app, of the website, is going to be one section. The sharing pictures is going to be another section. So what we need to do now is create a project. So we're going to do that by saying django-admin start project, and then followed by whatever you want to name this project. Let's name the project to do PRG, which stands for to do project. Now after doing that, we need to cd into to do PRG. So we'll say to do PRG. Now after creating a project, the next thing we need to do is we need to create an application. Now we'll do that by saying python manage.py start app, and then we now need to declare what we want the name of our app to be. Let's name it to do app. And once we do that, and we say dir, we can see we have our project and our app folders right here. We have to do PRG and to do app. So let me clear out my terminal. The next thing we now need to do is open our code editor. So I want to just run the command code dot. So if you are using Visual Studio Code, it's going to automatically open Visual Studio Code for you. But if you don't use Visual Studio Code, I want you to just navigate your way to where you see manage.py. For example, let me explain more. I want you to navigate your way to the folder you just created, and then I want you to enter to do PRG, and where you see this manage.py, this is the directory that you are going to open with your code editor. Maybe it's Visual Studio Code you are using, or Sublime Text. So what we now need to do is we need to now run python manage.py run server.py run server. Now once we run this, it's going to give us a local development server that we can use, this thing. So just copy it and just go to any of your web browsers and paste it. Now once you enter, you can see the install successfully worked. Congratulations. Now this is just the first part of actually starting our project. So we now need to configure everything in our code. So let me just zoom in here. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to go to our settings.py file inside our project folder. And now once we've done that, I want you to navigate your way down to where you see installed apps. Now what we need to do is we need to tell Django that we have an application that we just created, so that Django is going to know how to find it. All we simply need to do is, in quotes, just type in the name of the app that you just created. So that will be to do app. And then the next thing that we need to do is we need to tell Django where to find our templates folder. Now our templates folder is where we are going to keep all our HTML files, basically all our front-end files. So I want you to scroll down to line 58 where you see templates, and when you see dirs inside this empty list, I want you to put in quotes and type in templates. Now once you've done that, I want you to save it. So that is all we need to do inside our settings.py file for now. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to actually create this templates folder that we just told Django to go and find. So I want you to go to your app folder, which is to do app, and inside to do app, I want you to create a new folder and name it templates. Now once you've created templates inside your app folder, I want you to create a new folder inside this templates folder and name it to do app. So we're naming this folder, we're naming this new folder we're naming this new folder the name we give our app. So that will be to do app. Now that is going to be that for now. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to set up our URLs. That is the URL routing. So I want you to go to your projects folder and open up urls.py. And then where you see this from Django.urls import path, we also want to import include. Now what we're telling Django is that we want you to also check for urls.py file inside our app folder. So we're going to say path, we'll pass in an empty string here, and then we're going to say include, and then in quotes we're going to pass in to do app.urls. Now what we've told Django here is that we want you to check the urls.py file inside our to do app. So the next thing we need to do is we need to create a file named urls.py inside our app folder. So I want you to create a file, name it urls.py. Now once you've done that, inside this file I want you to say from Django.urls import path. Okay, let me choose the right interpreter right here. Okay, from Django.urls import path. Now what we need to say is URL patterns is equal to an empty list. It's going to be an empty list for now. So inside here is where we're going to be declaring all our URL path and URL patterns. So that is all we need to do in this video. So thank you for watching. If this was helpful and you learned how to set up a Django project, please kindly like, share and subscribe. And in the next video we're going to be talking about writing some views and basically setting up the templates that we're going to use. So stay tuned and see you in the next video. So in today's video we're going to talk about setting up the basic pages of the website, that is the home page, the login page and the register page. So we're going to start by first getting the files that we need. So I'm going to leave a link in the description below to each file. So basically we need 3 files, that is we need the home page, the login page and the register page. So what I want you to do is I want you to once you've downloaded those files, I want you to go to the templates folder and I want you to enter the to do app folder that we created, and I want you to paste those 3 files inside there. So once you've done that, let's return back to the code. Once you've done that, you should see 3 files inside the to do app folder, which is login, register and to do. So let's now start setting up the views. So I want you to go to your views.py, and here we're going to create the home page. So we're going to be using functions based views. So we're going to say dev home, and inside here we'll pass in request. And after doing that, we're going to return render, and we're going to pass in request, and then to do app. We need to pass in the URL to where the file is, to do app, and we're going to say / let's say the name of the file. The name of the file is todo.html. So I'm going to say to do app / todo.html, and now we're going to pass in an empty context. Now after doing this, after creating the view, we need to go back to our urls.py file inside our app and actually create a URL for this view. So we're going to go back, and then we're going to say we need to import views at the top. So we're going to say from dot import views. What this dot means is that from the present working directory that we are in, import views. So we're going to create a new URL path, and we're going to leave this empty because we want it to be the home page. So we're going to pass in whatever function based view we need to pass in here. So we're going to say views.home. We're passing in let me change that. We're passing in views.home here because in our views.py file we created a view named home, and then this view returns the home page. So hence that's why we're returning views.home. And after doing that, we need to give it a name of home page, home-page. Now don't forget to put a comma here. So when we save this, let's make sure, just make sure your server is running. Let me cancel this. Python manage.py run server. So make sure your server is running, and then once it's running, go back to your browser and then reload this page. So we can say we're getting an error. Templates does not exist as to do. Okay, it was a wrong spelling, so I'm sorry. I'm just going to change that. It's supposed to be to do app. Yep. So when we refresh that right now, we can see this is the home page, and this is how our project is going to look like once we are done building it. So this is the home page of the website. Now we need to now create another view, which is going to be the register view. So I'm going to say def register, regis, def register, and we're going to pass in request. And then after doing this, we're just going to return render rem. You know what, I'm just going to copy this up here. So we want to return render the particular view, which is the particular template, which is register.html. So we're going to come over here to, and then we're going to replace it with register. And after doing this, we also need to create a view for the login page. So we're going to say def login. We're going to say def login page. Now I want you to take note of something. Please do not name this view login, because we are going to eventually use a library, a built-in library in Django, and the name is library. So in order to avoid confusion and clashing, please just name it login page or something else. And then we're going to pass in request here, and then we're going to return render login.html. And after doing this, we need to create a URL for it. Now always remember that it's always a three-way process when you're creating a new view. A two-way process. You create a view, you create a URL for it. Once you create a view, you need to map it to a URL. So what you need to do is, in the URLs of py file, we're now going to come down, and then we're going to create a new URL for the register page. So we're going to name it register, and then we're going to pass in the function. We'll say views.register, and we'll give it a name of register. Now I'll put a comma here. After that, we need to create a new path for logging in. So we're going to name this login, and after doing that, we need to pass in the function as usual. So login page, and after that we'll give it a name of login. Now once we save that and return back to our browser, now we need to check the URL that we give it. For registering, it's register. So I'm going to say /register. So once we press enter, okay, there is an error in the template. So I'm just going to quickly fix that. Sorry, this is an error that I made. I would like to fix that too in the login page. Alright, so once we go to this view and reload, we can see this right here is the login view, the register view rather. You can see it takes in the username, email, and password. And for the this is the register view. For the login URL, we're just going to type in login, and we can see this is the login URL. So this is the form we're going to be working with to be able to log in and register a user. So right now, what we need to do is we need to start writing code that is actually going to create users and authenticate users. So So in the next video, we're going to be talking about Django. We're going to be talking about Django authentication and validation. So we're going to talk about how to create new users in Django and how to log in and validate users in Django. So thank you for watching this section of the video of the playlist. If you like seeing content like this, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to see you in the next video. Hello and welcome to this section of the playlist. So in the last video, we talked about setting up the home page, register page, and login page. So right now we're going to talk about how to actually use Django authentication and validation to create and register users, to create, register, and login users into our website. So let's go to the register page, the HTML file. So we can see this is the form that is being returned in the front end, which is let's go to review /register. So this is a form that is being returned in the front end. So we just need to edit it a bit. Let me change this from login to register. Right. So what we need to do right now is we need to take note of a few things. We need to take note of the fact that each input tag has a name attribute. This name attribute here, we can see name is equal to username, name here is email, and name here is password. Now what does this thing serve as? So it's going to serve as a unique identifier. Now what I mean is that we need to actually send all this information that the user is entering in the form to the backend. Now how do we send this to the backend? We're using these name tags as a unique identifier so that we can grab whatever the user has inputted into each of these fields using these unique identifiers in the backend. So right now I want you to just take note of a few things. Each input tag or input field has a name attribute. Here it is username, here email, and here password. And this is a form that is being rendered out in the front end. So let me just refresh that. Okay, I didn't save my change. So let's Control save and refresh. So register. And let's change what this button says to register. Okay, so this is how it looks like. So what we now need to do is we need to go to our views.py file where the main action is going to be happening, and we need to import a few things. So we need to import the user module. So I'm going to say from django.contrib.auth.models import user. Now we also need to import some other things. So I'm going to say from django.contrib.auth import authenticate login and logout. So we'll say authenticate login and logout. Now we're going to be using each of these libraries to authenticate the user, log in the user, and log out the user. So right now we are going to start writing code that is going to register a new user. So let's return back to our register HTML page. So here in the form, we can see the form has been given a method of post. Now what does this mean? Because we are trying to send all this data that the user has inputted to the backend, we need to give it a method, or we need to give the form a method of post, because we're trying to post or send that data somewhere, which is the backend. Now that is what we need to do. Now the next thing is that in the register page, we need to write some code to actually check if what is coming in is a post request. And if it is a post request, we want you to register this user and save the user in our database. So I'm going to say if request dot method method, if request dot method is equal to post, Then after doing this, we now need to grab everything that the user had inputted into each field. Now this is where this name attribute comes into use. This is where we use it. So we need to first grab whatever the user has inputted into username. So what we're going to say is username is equal to request dot post dot get, and then inside here we're going to pass in the name attribute, which is username. So we'll copy that and we're going to paste it here. So this way we're able to grab whatever the person is sending from the front end. Now the next thing is the email. So we're going to say request email is equal to request dot post dot get, and then we're going to pass in email here. And then the last thing is password. So we are now going to come down again and say password is equal to request dot post dot get password. So now we've been able to grab all the data that this user has actually inputted into the form. And to prove that we're able to grab it, let's just test the form. Let's try out let's say print username. So now we're going to test the form, and I'm going to type in something in the username field, and it's going to be printed out right here in our terminal. So let's save that. But before we do that, there's something I want you to take note of. There's something we're supposed to add to this form, which is known as CSRF token. If we do not add CSRF token, the website is going to crash. So CSRF token is like a security feature that we need to add to our forms. So to show you that it's going to crash, let me just type in something random here, and something random here. Take note of what happens. Okay, let me just type in a good email. So at gmail.com. So once we register, you are going to see it says CSRF verification field request aborted. So we need to add this in order for us to be able to do this well. So let's go back to our code, and under here, under the form tag, let's just put this percentage signs and type in CSRF token underscore token. So right now, whatever we type in is going to be printed out here. So let's first go to our front end, refresh, and let's just type in something random here, like the PROTON guy, and then let's just put in some random email and some random password. Now once we hit register, it says we have an error. The WSGI request has no attribute post. So where are we getting this error from? In line 11 in our views.py file. So username request.post.get. Okay, there was an error. This is supposed to be in everything's supposed to be uppercase, request.post. So that is the error that we had. So let's save that and go back to our front end and refresh. So I'm going to type in something here again, the PROTON guy, and then I'm going to start putting a random email and a random password. Once I hit register and we go to the terminal, we can see the PROTON guy has been printed out right here in the terminal. So we are rest assured now that whatever we type in the front end is being sent to the back end. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to write some code that is going to create a new user and save it to our database. So what we're going to say right here is we're going to say new user is equal to is equal to user dot object dot create user. Now we're going to put in here in quotes, and what we need to pass in inside here in quotes is we need to pass in some details, which is the username, the email, and then the password. So we're just going to say username is equal to username, email is equal to email, and password is equal to pass is equal to password. So what we now need to do right now is we need to say new user dot save. Now once we do this and we try out our front end, we're going to see that this new user whatever the person enters in the back end is going to be in the front end rather, sorry, is going to be sent to the back end, and then the new user is going to be created. Now here it's supposed to be create underscore user. Let's not make any silly mistakes. So once we save that, we can try out in the front end to see if a new user is actually going to be created. But then there's something we need to do first. We need to create a super user so that we can access Django's admin panel. So let's break out of the terminal and then create a new super user. We do that by saying python manage .py create create super user. Now what we need to do is so we're getting an error right here, django.db.uses the operational error, no such table auth user. Now the reason why we're getting this error is because we have not made our migrations and migrated. So what we need to do to fix this error is we need to just say python manage.py make migrations. Now this is going to make migrations, and then what we need to say is python manage.py migrates. Now once we run this, it's going to migrate and save all these things to the database. Now what we can say is we can now create our super user. So I'm going to say python manage.py create super user. Now once we try this, it's going to ask us for username. So I'm just going to type in admin as the username, leave email blank, password. I'm going to type in admin, password, admin, and then hit Y. So our super user has been created automatically. Now I want you to take note of something. If we go to the urls.py file inside our projects folder, notice there is a URL path here showing /admin. Now this is the default dashboard that Django has given us. So if you go back to your browser, let's open a new tab, and if you go to that URL /admin and we press enter, okay, we need to run our server again. So python manage.py run server, or typed in something wrong, .py run server. So once we run our server again and we reload the page, we're going to see we have this default Django administration right here. So once we go to the users, we can see there is only one user, which is the user we just created here, admin. Well, right now let's try to create a new user from our front end. So let's create a username. Let's name it tpg. Email, let's put something random, and password I'm going to say tpg18. So once we hit register and we can see the page loaded, let's go back to the backend and reload, and we can see that a new user named tpg has been created, and this is the email we gave it, we entered from the front end. So now we've been able to write code that can actually create users in create users and save the user details in our backend, in our database, I mean, sorry. So let's go back to our views.py file, and then what we can also do is you know how if you want to register on different websites and if your password is too short, it's going to display an error saying password is too short. The password must be at least 8 characters. We can also do something like that, and what we need to do is we need to import two libraries. So from here, Django does such shortcuts, import render. We also need to import redirect. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to say from Django does contrib import messages. So we are going to be using the messages library to actually flash messages in our front end. Now I am going to show you how to do that. So we're going to write code right now that is going to flash an error message below this register under here. It's going to check if whatever password the person enters here is, if it's less than 3 characters, and it's going to give an error under the register. So what we need to do is right here we need to write a conditional and say if len password is less than 3, then we need to give an error. So we're going to say messages.error. So we're going to say messages.error, that is, we want to send an error message, and then we pass a request right here. And after passing a request, we need to type in the message that we actually want to be displayed in the front end. So we're going to say password is too short, and then we can say password must be at least 3 characters. So the next thing we need to do is we actually need to now return a particular template, so that this we need to return a template. We need to specify where we want this message to be displayed. So we're going to say return redirect, and inside here we're getting an error. Return redirect, and then inside this parenthesis right here we need to pass in the name of the URL that we want to redirect to. Now if we go to our urls.py file, remember we gave each of these URLs a name. So we want to redirect back to this login page and to this register page and display that error, and the name that we gave this register URL is register. So in our views.py we are going to say return redirect register. So right now we can test this out and see how well it works. So let's reload the page. Let's type in something. Let's type in test user, and then email, enter a random email, and we're going to type in 2 characters. But before we forget, we actually need to write some code that takes this message from the back end and display it in the front end. I'm so sorry, I forgot about that part. So right now we are able to actually send messages from the back end to the front end, but then we have no way of actually displaying that message in the front end in this register form right here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to write some code that's going to display that message inside here, which is the register front end page. So what we need to say is we need to use the Django templating language. We're going to say if messages, that is, if there's any message coming in. Now I want you to take note of this. Anytime you create an if tag, a for tag inside your front end, you should always close the block, an if block or an else, if an if block or a for block. So we're going to say end if. Now what we need to do is we actually now need to write a for loop. So we're going to say this is where it's done, even from the official documentation on Django websites. This is where it's done. So we're going to say for message in messages. So we're looping through, and then remember we're going to put an end for. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create an h2 tag, and inside here we're going to pass in messages, and then let's just give it some brief styling. Let's give it a style. Let's change the color to fire brick because we want the error, we want it to be a red. We want the message that will be displayed to be red because it's an error. So we're going to say if messages and then write this for loop inside. So let's put a BR tag here so that we can space things up really nice. So let's save it and let's go to our front end and try again to register. Let's refresh, and in here we're going to pass in test user and email, put a random email, and here we're going to pass in only 2 characters. So when we hit register, it's giving us an error. What is this? Let's go back and check what error we are receiving. So here we're saying if messages from message. Let's go to our views.py file and check well for what the error is. Okay, so I have seen the error that we made, or that I made rather. So in your front end, please, I want you to, if you made a mistake with me, I want you to change this. It's not supposed to be messages right here. I'm supposed to pass in message because we're looping through it here, because we said for message in messages. So let's save that and let's reload the page and try again. So I'm going to pass in some random thing here and a random email too, and we're only going to pass in 2 characters right here. So once we hit register, we can see we have this error. Password must be at least 3 characters. So that is how to use the Django messages framework to actually display or flash messages in the front end. So right now we've written code that can detect how long the characters, how long or the length of the characters that the person has inputted in the password input tab. So you can go ahead and play around with this and decide to add whatever you want, but for me I am okay here and I'm going to leave it like this. So right now we've written code that actually registers a user. What we now need to do is we now need to write some code that is going to check if a user already exists, and if the user exists, it's going to tell the person to use a different username. Because you know how if you try to create a new account on Facebook and the username already exists, it's going to give you an error saying that username already exists, that you should use a different one. So what we're going to do right now is we need to write some code right here after this, and then we need to filter through all the users in the database and check if there's any user in the database that has the username that is equal to what the person entered from the front end. So what I'm going to say is we're going to create a variable and name it get all users. I'm going to equate that to users dot objects dot filter. I think I'm going to rename this this variable get all users by username. Yes, so I'm going to say the object the filter. We're trying to filter through the database and check if there is any user that has this username, whatever the person enters here. So I'm going to say user the object of filter username is equal to username. That is, filter through the database and check through all the users and check for users that have this username, and check for the users whose username is equal to what has been written in the front end. So we're now going to write some code. We're going to write a conditional right here. We're going to say if get all users by username, that is, if there is actually something, if this query that we wrote actually returns something, that means there's actually a user with this particular username in database. So what we're going to say right here is we're now going to return an error message again. So we're going to paste this here and say if get all users by username, we're going to change the error message to error username already exists. EXIST already exists. Use another, or whatever you want to name it, or whatever you want to type in. I mean, now once we save this and we try to register a new user that has a username that already exists in the database, it's going to give that error. So let's try to register a new user using username TPG. So we're going to come here and type in TPG, and after typing in TPG, we're going to enter a random email and random password. So once we hit register, we can see error, username already exists, use another. So now we're able to check if a user with that particular username already exists. So that is all we are going to do for the register view. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to focus on the login page, which is the login view. So what we need to do is we need to now get whatever data that the person has entered into this form in the login page. So let's go back to our web browser and go to the login view. So right now we can see this is login view. So again, we need to take note of this these name tags that are name attributes that I'm given to these input tags. For here, for this place, for entering username, we have the name attribute of username, and for entering password, we have the name attribute of pass. And then we also have given this form a method of post. Now remember, we need to add CSRF token. So I'm going to come here and put this percentage signs and say CSRF underscore token, COKEN underscore token. So we're going to save this and go to our views.py, and right here we're going to grab whatever the person has entered into the front end and send it to the back end. So it's the same process we're going to follow here. We're going to write if request dot method is equal to post. That is, if whatever request that is coming in from the front end is a post request, then we're going to say if request of method is equal to post. We now need to grab whatever they've entered into the form from the front end using those name tags that we give the input, using the name attributes that we give the name tags. So we're going to say username is equal to request dot post dot get, and then in parentheses here we're going to pass in uname. Why are we passing in uname? Because in the we're passing in uname because in the front end we gave it a name of uname. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to grab whatever the person inputs in this password field. So what we need to do is we need to say password is equal to request dot post dot get, and inside here we need to check what name attribute we gave it. We gave it a pass, so we're going to come here and pass in pass. So after doing that, we now need to actually check if this user exists in the database. So we're going to use the authenticate and login. We're going to use authenticate and login in this view. That is the libraries that we imported earlier. So what we need to say is we actually need to check if this user is in the database. So I'm going to say validate user underscore user is equal to authenticate, and then we need to call this authenticate, and inside the parentheses we're going to pass in username, and then we're going to pass in password. So we're going to say username is equal to username, and then we're going to say password is equal to password. So we're trying to actually authenticate and check if these users actually exist. So what we're going to say right here is so what authenticate does is that it accepts username and password, and then it checks the database to see if a user exists. If a user does not exist, it returns none. That is, if this particular user does not exist in database, it's going to return none. So we're going to now write a conditional and say if validates user is not none, that is, if this user exists, we now need to log in this user. We now need to use this login that we imported right here. So we're going to say login, and then in parentheses right here, we're going to pass in request, and after passing in requests, we're going to pass in validate user. So what it's going to do is it's going to check the database and see if this user exists. If the user is not, if validate user is not known, that is, if this user exists, it's now going to log in this particular user. Now after logging in the user, we want the users to be redirected to the home page. So what we're going to say is we're going to return, so return redirect, and then we need to check the name that we give this particular URL. We give it home page, so we'll copy this, and then we'll go back to our views.py and say, okay, once this user has been logged in, return the user to the home page. So what we now need to do right here is, here we're saying if the user is not known, that is, if the user exists, then log in the user and redirects the user to the home page. But what if this user does not exist? So we're going to say else. We need to now pass in a message, an error message, and send to this particular view. So we're going to paste this and say error wrong user details, or users does not exist. So I'm going to say error wrong, we'll just say wrong user details, or user does not exist. So this is going to send an error message to the login page. Now right here, we need to change this from register to login, because we're trying to send this error message to this login page. So we're going to save that. Now remember, the same thing we did right here for register is the same thing we need to do for login. We need to actually write some code that gets these messages from the backend. So I'm just going to copy this, Ctrl C, come to the login, and then we're going to put a BR tag here, and we will come down and paste this. So now if messages, we're going to say for message in messages, we're going to display the message right here. So we're now going to save this. Now there's one more thing we need to change. So in our register view right here, we've written code that actually registers the user, but we want to do it in such a way that when the user has been registered, we want the user to be redirected to the login page, so that the user can now be logged into the website, so that the user can now enter his details and be logged into the website. So right here, after creating the user right here, we need to redirect the user to that particular home page, to the login page rather, So let's just copy to the login page. So let's copy this and paste it here. So after creating this new user here, new user.save, we want you to redirect this person to the login page. Now we also need to pass in a message right here. We want to say messages.success, and inside here we'll pass in request, and we want the message, what message we want to be displayed in the front end is user successfully created. Go ahead and log in. So I'm going to say user successfully created, log in now. So once we save this, anytime a new user is created, this user is going to be redirected to the login page, and this message, this success message, user successfully created, login now, is going to be displayed. So let's go back to our login view. Here we've told Django that if whatever the person enters is a wrong password, then if is a wrong details, then we want you to redirect this person to the login page and display this error message. So let's just make sure everything is working, looks nice. Okay, so everything looks okay. Let's now go to our front end and test this out. So let's first try to enter wrong details. So let's enter wrong details, and let's see the error we get. So we can see the error we get: error, wrong user details, or user does not exist. So right now we can see our code is working perfectly well. We're able to authenticate and check if this user actually exists. So what I want to do right now is I would like to log out of the Django admin dashboard. So if I reload here, I am not logged in. Now we are going to try to log in from the front end, and then let's try that. Because we created a super user earlier in this video, we know that we already have a user account named admin. So we're going to try to log in from this login page. Now if we come here, notice that we've been logged out of the admin dashboard, and here it's asking us to log in, but we're going to log in from the front end here. So I'm going to type in my username and password, and once I type that in, we can see we have been redirected to this home page. And if we go back to the admin dashboard and we refresh, we can see we have been directed to the dashboard because we have been logged in, or we logged in from the front end. So we can see our code is working perfectly fine, and we can see that immediately we logged in, we were redirected to this home page. So let's just check to see if we need to add any other thing. So the error message is working, everything is working fine. The user that we just logged in with came here and was validated successfully. So I believe that is all we are doing for this video. And yeah, there is one more thing we need to change. Right here where it is written register now, we're supposed to change this to login, because obviously it's supposed to log in, it's supposed to show on the register form. So we would say login, and we need to redirect this to the login URL. So we are going to come here and put URL login. So we are linking this to the login page, and we are also going to go to the login page and do the same thing. So right here we're going to put in URL, and then we're going to link this to the register page. And let's save this. We're doing this so that when we come to the home page and we hit register, it brings us to the register page, and when we hit login, it brings us to the login page. Let's just check to see if we need to add any other thing. So the error message is working, everything is working fine. The user that we just logged in with came here and was validated successfully. So I believe that is all we are doing for this video. We've talked about setting up the projects, we've talked about setting up the basic pages, which is the home page, the login page, and the register page. And we've talked about Django authentication and validation and user creation. Now in the next video, we're going to be talking about database issues and creating we're going to be talking about creating models basically, and the models are going to be what are going to be the way our database is going to be configured, and it's going to be the main way we are going to store all our to-dos that we are going to create in the database. So thank you for watching this video, guys. If this was helpful, please hit that like button, please subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. And please don't forget to share and subscribe, because it's going to help me a lot. So thank you for watching this video, and I'm going to see you in the next one where we're going to talk about our models. Thank you for watching. Hi and welcome to this section of the playlist. So in this video, we're going to talk about setting up the models.py file in our app folder. So the models we are going to be collecting a few fields in the models. So the first field we're going to collect is the name of the actual to-do item, like buy groceries for next week, and then we're also going to be taking in the status of the to-do item. That is, we're going to take note whether the task has been completed or whether the task has been whether the task has been completed or whether it's still in progress. So right here, we're going to write some code. When we're done with the modules, we're going to write some code that's going to enable us to mark an item as finished or delete an item. So let's start and get right into the models.py file. So I want you to go to your models.py file inside your app folder. Now basically, whatever we write inside our models.py file is going to determine what rows and tables we have in our database. So we're going to create a new model. I'm going to name it to do, and then open parentheses, and we'll pass in models.model, and we'll put a colon here. And after doing that, we're going to create our first item here, and it's going to be the name of the name of this to do item. So we're going to put name is equal to models.charfield, and inside here we're going to pass in max length equal let's put, I don't know, 5,000, or max length equals 1,000. And we need to put another create another table inside this our model. I'm going to say status. We're going to equate that to a models.boolean field. So we'll say models.boolean field. So basically, a boolean field only has two inputs, can only have two inputs, whether true or false. If it is true, it means the task has been completed, but if it is false, it means the task is still in progress. So I'm going to say models of boolean field. I'm going to pass in a default of false. So once we've done that, we just need to put this. Okay, one thing that we need to do also is we need to pass in the user, that is whoever is creating this to-do list item, because our website is going to be a multi-user website. That is, anybody can come to this website, register, and create an actual to-do list, an actual to-do item. So what we need to do is, at the top, we need to say from Django.contrib.auth.models import user. So what you now need to do right here is what you need to do, import user. So what we need to do right here is we need to create a foreign key to this particular user model. So basically what a foreign key does is that it connects two models together, so they form a relationship. Now what we're going to do right here is we're going to say user is equals to models.foreign key, and inside this parenthesis we're going to pass in user, and then we're going to say on delete equals models.cascade. Now what does this on delete equals models.cascade do? So what it basically means is that if this user ever gets deleted from the database, we also want you to go into this database and delete everything, every to-do item that the user has created. So basically what I mean is that if for example a user deletes his account, all the to-do items that he has ever created is going to be deleted from the database. So the last thing we need to do is we need to say def_str def_str donder, and then we're going to pass in self here, and we're going to say return self dot name. Let's name this to do name. So we're going to say self.todo_name, return self.todo_name. Now anytime you create a new model in your models.py, you need to make migrations and migrate so that these tables can actually be created in the database. So we're going to go to our terminal. We're going to break out of this terminal of the we're going to break out, of the server, of the live server, and we're going to run python manage.py make migrations. And then once we run that, you can see create model to do, and the next thing we need to say is python manage.py migrate. So this is going to migrate and save these changes in the database. So next thing we need to do is run our server, python manage.py run server. So our server is running now and it's live. So what the next thing we need to do is we need to register this model in our admin.py file, so that we can actually see this model in our admin dashboard, Django admin dashboard. If we go back to the dashboard right now and we reload, we can see there is no model displayed right here. Let me zoom in. But once we come to our admin.py file, we can say from Django.models import, sorry, not Django.models, from .models import to do. Now the next thing we need to say is admin.site.register, and basically we are trying to register. So we would say admin.site.register, and inside here we're going to pass in to do. So once we do that, we just need to save it, go back to the browser, and then reload. Now once we reload, you can see we have something right here named to-dos, and once we open it, we can see we have 0 to-dos. So basically we've been able to take these modules that we just created and register it in the our admin.py file, so that they can be displayed here. And we can just add a to-do item here. The user is going to be obviously admin, because admin is currently logged in. And then to do, I can create a new to do and say make a new YouTube video, and then I'm going to save this. And then once we click it, we can see, so basically this is a model that we have right here. But what we actually now want to do is we want the user to be able to create this model that is a new to do from the front end, which is here. So what we need to do right now is we need to go to the front end, that is the template, to do the HTML, and we need to start editing the file to suit our task. So basically this is a simple form we have here. Whatever you type in here can be added as a task. So what we need to do is we need to go to this to do the HTML file, and we need to scroll down or scroll up and locate where we have that form, that is this input tag right here. Now once we've located it, we need to give it a method of post, because we want to send that data to the backend. So I'm going to say method, method is already here. I'm going to give it a method of posts, and then don't forget we need to add CSRF token. So I'm going to come here and say CSRF underscore token, and then we're going to save it. We also need to take note and check if this has been given a name tag, and no, it hasn't been given a name tag. So we're going to come here and give it a name attribute, and we're going to say task. I'm going to give it a name of task, and then basically that is all we need to do for now. So in the backend, we need to go to the views.py, and we need to scroll to that view, which is here. So we need to write some code and check for what method is coming in as usual. So we're going to say if request dot method is equal to post colon. Then what we now need to do is we need to import this particular model that we created to do. So we're going to come to our views.py and say from dot models import to do, And here we're going to say if request on method is equal to post, we now need to grab whatever the person has imputed from the front end. So we are simply going to say what should we name this variable? We name it task is equal to requests dot post dot get, and inside parentheses here we pass in task. Why? Because we gave it a name attribute of task right here. So let's close the admin.py. So once we've done that, what we now need to do is we need to actually take what this person has inputted and save it to the database. That is, save it to this model so that it can be saved in the database. So what we're going to do is we're going to say create a new variable and say new to do is equal to we're going to now call this to do model right here, and we're going to pass in some variables. If we go back to our models.py, we see this model consists of 3 fields: user, to do name, and status. So what we simply need to do is we need to pass in, the first thing we need to pass in is the user, because here we put in user. So we're going to say user is equal to request dot user. That is what we're currently trying to say is that the user that is the creator of this particular to do item is the current logged in user. So to get the current logged in user, we say request or user. So once we say request or user, it's going to give us the current logged in user, or that is currently logged in on the website. So we're going to say user is equal to request or user, and the next thing we need to pass in is to do name. So we're going to say to do name is equal to task, and then we don't need to pass in status because we're already given it here. We've given it a default to be false. So that means every to do item that is created will always have a status of let's check, it will always have a status of in progress because we have given it a default of false. So what the next thing we need to do is we now need to say new to do dot save, and once we call that dot save and we save this, if we go back to our front end and just refresh, let's refresh. Is our server running? Let's check to see if the server is running. Okay, it's still reloading. I don't know why it's taking time. Let me just run it again. Python manage just py run server. Okay, so once our server is running, let's reload this page again and let's try to add a new task. So let's say let's create a new task. I'm going to name it upload video tomorrow, and once I hit add task, we can see the page reloaded, but we don't know if anything happened. What we need to do is we need to now go to the admin dashboard and go to to-dos right here and check, and we can see what we entered from the front end is has been saved in the database. So once we click this, we can see that the user was the current logged in user that typed it, which was admin, and then we can see the to-do name is upload video tomorrow, and the status is false. So let's just create something else. Let's say post to do website on Heroku. So once we add task and we come back to the dashboard, we can see post to do website on Heroku has been added to the dashboard. So that is all for this video, guys. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to actually get the data from the backend, all this data, and display it in the front end. So basically, anytime a user is logged in and get redirected to the home page, they are going to only be able to see whatever tasks that they have created. So thank you for watching. So in this section of the playlist, we are going to talk about how to get all the data from the backend, that is all these to-dos to-do items that we have created. We want to get them and display them in the front end over here where we see this buy groceries for next week, new car. So basically whatever to-do I create is going to be displayed right here in the front end. So let's do that. So we're going to go to our views.py file, and in our views.py file we're going to write some queries that are going to retrieve this data for us so that we can display it in the front end. So what we simply need to say here is we need to come down and say create a new variable. We'll say all to-dos is equal to to-do.objects.filter. Now I'm going to explain what we're currently typing, but let me just type this out. So I'm going to say user is equal to request.user. So basically what we're saying right here is we're telling Django that, okay, Django, go to a database and filter through all the items in this to-do model or in this to-do table and get every to-do item that was created by this particular user, that is the user that is currently logged in. So it's going to go to the database, get every to-do list item that I have created, and it's going to display them in the front end. So what we need to do right now is we need to now actually pass these all to-dos as a context so that it can be displayed in the front end. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new variable or a new dictionary and name it context, our context dictionary, and I'm going to say to-dos and equate that to all to-dos. So what we now need to do after creating this context dictionary, we need to pass it in our return render. So we're going to pass this context in so that we can actually grab all this data and display it in the front end. So let's save that and go to the to-do.html file. So right now we've successfully been able to grab all this data and send to the front end. Well, how do we take that data and display it in the front end? What we need to do is we need to write a for loop that loops through each and every single item in the to-do table and displays them right here. So I'm going to show us how to do that. The first thing we need to do is we need to only leave one row, that is this first row, buy groceries for next week, and delete these other two rows. So we would come down here and delete these two rows. So we'll just go ahead and delete those. Sorry, let me make sure I deleted that well. So let's remove this row, and delete these two. So once I go back and refresh, let's refresh the page, and we can see we only have one row there. So what we need to do is we need to write a single for loop inside this t-body tag. So we're going to say for I in to-dos. Now why are we saying for I in to-dos? We're saying for I in to-dos because we've passed to-dos as a context dictionary. So this to-dos is going to take all this data that has been filtered in this line 14, and it's going to pass it to the front end. So we're going to say for I in to-dos. Right here we're going to replace this with i.name. Now we're saying i.name because in the model we gave this field we need to give it i.todo name. Sorry, my bad. So we're going to say i.todo_name. Now anytime you want to display data from a context dictionary like this, you need to use this double curly brackets to do that. So I'm going to say i.todo name, and over here we need to write a conditional to check if the status is positive or negative. Sorry, if it is true or false, I mean. So if it is true, we want completed to be displayed, else if it is false, we want in progress to be displayed. So let's just control X this first. So write a conditional right here, and then we're going to say if I dot let's check it. If I dot status, we're saying I dot status because right here we gave it the field a variable name of status. So we'll say if I dot status is equal to true, that means it has been completed. We're going to display this. We're going to say completed. COMPLETED. We're going to say completed. And then here all we need to say is we need to write another conditional and say else. We're going to paste in progress right here. And don't forget, anytime we do this, we need to end the block. So I'm going to say end if. So we've said if idle status is true, then it's going to be completed. But if it is not completed, it's going to display in progress. So that is all we need to do for now. Let's save that, come to our front end and reload. Let me zoom in. So let's reload the page, and we have an error. Let's check what the error is. It says on close tagline looking for an empty end4. Okay, so right here we didn't close our for loop. Now this is the error that I've gotten a whole lot of times. So don't forget, anytime you create a tag, you need to close the block. Anytime you create a block, you need to create close the block. If it's a for block, you need to put end4. If it's an if block, you need to put end if when you are done. So let's save that, go to our front end and reload the page. Once we reload the page, you can see everything is displayed beautifully right here in this front end. We can see make new YouTube video. If we come to the back dashboard, you can see make new YouTube video here. You can see upload video tomorrow here. So you can see everything is being displayed perfectly in the front end, and we can see everything is in progress because we have given, because everything has been set to default, which is false. So everything is displayed as in progress. But if we were to change make new YouTube video, if we were to tick this and mark it as completed, if we come to the front end and reload, we can see it has changed to completed. So we have now written some decent code that is able to go to the database and filter through and get all the to-do list items that have been created by me, which is the current logged in user. So I think we need to add one line of code to our views right here. So we want it to be in such a way that when the user has entered a new to-do list item and it hits add task, the page reloads. So let's just check. Okay, let's try to create a new task. Let me name it subscribe. Please subscribe. So let's add that, and then we can see please subscribe has been added and it's saying in progress. So that is how to get all the data from the backend and get it to be displayed on the front end. So right now what we need to do is in the next video we're going to talk about how to actually make these buttons work. So for example, if we want to delete this this particular to-do list item, all we can do is just hit delete and it's going to delete this item from our database. And if you want to mark an item as finished, all we need to do is just hit finished and it's going to mark the item as finished. So that is all for today, guys. Thank you for watching this video. If this was helpful and if this was helpful, basically, please hit that like button, please share, please subscribe and comment. Please help me with the YouTube algorithm. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one where we're going to talk about how to make the delete and updates. Basically, we're going to make the delete button work, and we're going to update each item to make them, to be able to make them sorry, what I mean is we're going to make this button work, and we're going to make this finished button work. So when it is clicked, this particular item will be marked as completed. So in this video, I am going to show you how to make these two buttons work. So I'm going to create two views that will help us be able to mark each task as finished, or we'll be able to delete each task. So we need to go back to our views.py file, and in here we need to create two views. So the first view we're going to create is we're going to name it def delete delete task. Let's name that well. I'll just name that delete task. I will pass in request and name. Now I am going to show you why we're passing in name. So what we need to do is, for now, let's say pass, and then let's create a new view and name it updates for update, and we're also going to pass in request, and we're also going to pass in name, and here we would say pass. Now why exactly are we passing in name? I am going to show you. So we need to now create a new view, a new URL for these two views. So what we need to do is go to our urls.py file, put a comma here, and we'll create a URL and name it the first one is delete task, and then after that we'll pass in views dot delete task. I will give it a name of delete, and after that we would create another URL path, and we would name this one updates, and we would pass in views dot updates, and we'll give it a name of updates. So let's just save this. So one thing that we now need to do right here in these URLs, each of them, is that we need to come to each one and we need to type in something. We need to say str name and do this. So basically, why are we doing this? What we want to do is anytime this button is clicked, we actually need a way to tell which particular to do item has been clicked, so that we can delete that particular item from the database. Now the way we are going to do it is that we are going to create a URL, and whenever that URL is clicked, it's going to pass in the name of whatever item we have created here. So whatever item we clicked, the URL in the URL, whatever item we are going to click in the URL, the name of that item is going to be passed in, and then that name is going to be sent to the view that we just created. And using this method, we are going to be able to grab the name from the URL. So you are going to see how this works shortly. So let's just save this, and then the next thing we need to do is in our views.py file, we now need to get whatever we need to filter through the database and get this particular item that is being sent from the URL. Now I am going to explain this more. So we're going to say get to do is going to be equal to to-do.objects.get, and then what we want to do is we want to get this particular to-do item using the user that is currently logged in, and then the name of the to-do. So I'm going to say user is equal to request.user, and then we're going to say to-do_name is equal to name, that is this name that we're passing in here. And why are we saying to-do name is equal to name? Because we gave this particular field to-do name, this modules.char field. So once we've done that, this is going to get this particular to-do item from the database. So the next thing that we need to simply do is we need to say get to do dot delete. I believe it is get to do dot delete that we have to do. I would like to quickly check that to see if I am right. And yes, it is does delete that we simply have to do. Now all we need to now say is, so after deleting this task, I want you to return redirect to the home page. So we're going to say return redirect home, and this is simply going to after deleting the task, is going to redirect us to the home page. Now there is one last thing we need to pass in this to-do.html. What we need to pass in here in this button is we need to now tell this button to send these people to this particular URL that is now going to send them to this particular view. So anytime the button is clicked from right here, it's going to send them to the URL, and URL is going to send them to that particular view. So in this delete button right here, we need to wrap this inside an anchor tag. So we'll put a right here, and then we'll just paste what we copied earlier. So inside this URL, we now need to link it dynamically to go to this particular delete URL. So what we're going to say right here is to link in Django dynamically. What we do is we put these curly braces, put our percentage signs, we say URL, and inside here we pass in the name of the URL that we're trying to link to, which is delete. So I'm going to copy and paste that right here, and then we need to do the same thing for trying to mark it as finished. So I'm just going to Ctrl X this, create an anchor tag, paste what I copied before, and I'm going to link it dynamically. So I'm going to do this and say URL update. I believe I named the URL update. Yes. So all we need to do now is just save, and let's go back to the front end and reload to make sure everything is still working fine. Okay, so everything is still, oh, we have an error. Right, we have an error because there is one more thing we need to pass in. So right here in this delete field, we need to pass in i.name. So while we're passing in i.name, i.to-do name, to-do underscore name, i.to-do, yeah. So while we're passing in i.to-do underscore name, we're passing it here because we are trying to, first of all, so let's retrace it. In the views.py, in the home page, is filtering through the database and sending all these to-do items to this front end. And then here we loop through it to say for I in to-dos. So basically we're saying for every item in to-dos, display them. And then what we're also trying to do is we're trying to pass in the name of this to-do into this URL, because in the URL it takes in this name, and then it is now this name that is being grabbed from the URL in this particular view, delete task. So here we're saying to do the objects.get user is equals to request or user, and then to do name is equals to this name that we passed in here. So I know that might have sounded like a mouthful, but I want you to if you are confused, I want you to rewatch it and try to understand what I was saying. So once we've done that, all we need to do is go back and refresh this page. We have another error. Okay, let's just comment this out for now. So let's comment this out and save. So once we refresh, we can see everything works fine now. And if we hover over this delete, in the left side of your screen at the bottom, we are going to see /delete task / then the name of this particular to-do item. So if I try to delete it, we have an error. So let's see the error. It said reverse for home not found. Home is not a valid view function or pattern name. So I know why we're getting this error. Let's go back to our views, and then it's saying the error is coming from line 61. So we come here and we see line 61 giving us there is no valid URL name as home. So let's go to our URLs and we can see it's named home page. So that was the mistake we made, or mistake I made. So I'm going to replace this home with home page. Now once I refresh this, it says to do matching query does not exist. So let's try to solve this together. Let's debug together. So we're trying to say to do the object.get user is equals to request or user. Let's check that. User, okay, is equal to request the user, and to do underscore name. To do underscore name is equal to name. So I'm just going to debug this and fix it. Okay, so so apparently there was no error in our code. The only error that I was getting was because when I reloaded the page, the item had already been deleted before, and I was attempting to delete an item that didn't exist. So to prove that it works right now, let's first reload the page, and then let's try to delete host to do on Heroku. If we hit delete, we can see the item was deleted, and if we go back to the database and refresh, we can see it was also deleted from the database. So now we've been able to update, we've been able to add the delete functionality to our code. The next thing we need to do is we now need to add this finished functionality. So right now in the update view, what we need to say is we also need to copy this and say get to do, and we'll paste it. So since we want to mark this as completed, all we simply need to do is, all we are going to say is get to do dot status is equal to true, and then we're going to say get to do dot save. So what we're trying to say here is that, remember when we created the models, we created a field named status. So this checks to see if the to do item is completed or not completed yet. So if it is completed, it's definitely going to be true, and if it's not, it's going to be false. So right here, when we're trying to when we hit the update button, it comes to this view, it gets this particular to do item, and then it sets that field to true, and then it saves this to the database. So what we now need to do is we now need to return redirect to the home page. So I'm going to paste this. So let's go back to our todo.html and Ctrl Z what we did earlier, and right here we need to pass in i.todo underscore name. So let's save that and try to reload our page and see what happens. So we're getting an error. What does it say? It said could not pass i.todo underscore name from update i.todo underscore name. So okay, we need to give it space here. So let's refresh. Right, so it's fixed. Now we want to now change this please subscribe to completed. So once I hit finished, we can see it has changed to completed, and if we check the backend, the database, the dashboard rather, and we can see the status has been changed to true. And if we also do the same for upload video tomorrow, if we hit finished, we can see the status has been changed to completed. So that is how to update this particular fields. That's how to update each field in each field of our to do item in Django. Please, if this video was helpful, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, come back for more. And if you are still confused or about the video, just you can rewatch it again and rewatch it. And if you have questions, please kindly leave your questions in the comment section, and I will be happy and glad to reply to your questions. Thank you for watching this video, and in the next video we are going to talk about restricting pages to only logged in users. So right now, anybody can just come to the website. Anybody can just come to this particular homepage, even though the user has not created an account yet. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how to restrict pages to only logged in users. Video, I'm going to teach you how to restrict pages to only logged in users. That is, only a logged in user can access this page. If I come to the website and I have not been and I am not logged in and I am trying to access this page, I will be redirected to the login page. Now let's begin. We are going to start by first of all creating a logout view, because silly me didn't write code in the authentication video to log out a user. So what we're going to say is, we're going to say dev logout, and after doing that, we're going to pass in request. After passing in request, all we have to do is call this logout library that we imported earlier, where we imported authenticate and login. And what we're simply going to say is logout request. And after saying logout request, we need to tell Django that, okay, after logging out this user, we want you to redirect the user to the login page. So what we're going to say is return redirects login. So anytime a user logs out, he or she is going to be redirected to the login page. So the next thing that we need to do is create a URL for this logout view. Now let's go to our view, our urls.py, and create a new path, and then we're going to call this logout. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to pass in views dot log. Okay, let's put the comma here. Views dot log out view. Okay, another issue that we might have is we need to rename this view. Now, why do we need to rename it? We need to rename it because the view that we just created has the same name as this library that we imported earlier. So we need to rename it and call it something different, something like logout view. So let's save it like that, and then we will come back to our views.py and change this to views.logout view. And after doing this, we're going to give it a name of logout. So let's just save it, and the next thing we need to do is we need to actually create a button for the logout view, because right here there is no button. So let's return to our todo.html, and then we are going to copy a button. We're going to copy this button right here. So after copying it, please, I need you to come outside this form tag. Now you must come outside this form tag. If not, you might mistakenly paste it inside the form tag. Now after coming out, outside the form tag, after coming outside the form tag, we now need to create an anchor tag right here, and we need to link this anchor tag to the logout view. So we're going to say URL, and then here we're going to pass in logout, because we gave this URL name logout. So the next thing that we need to do is we're now going to paste that button that we copied earlier, and we're going to change this to logout. So let's refresh and see how that looks. So we can see how that looks. Let us change the color a bit. So I am going to give it a styling. I'm going to give it a background color of fire brick, and I am going to give it a color of white. So when we refresh that, we can see this is how it looks like. Now to test that our logout view is working, let's just hit logout. And once we hit logout, you can see we have been redirected to the login page. We have been logged out. Now the main purpose of this video is to actually show you how to restrict pages, how to restrict some certain pages to only logged in users. Now the next thing that we need to do is that let's first log in. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to restrict this page to only logged in users. So if I am not logged in, I cannot access this page. So let's do that right now. So we need to go to our views.py file, and then we need to scroll to the top and import a decorator. So we're going to say from django.contrib.auth.decorators import login required. So basically what login required does is that it's anytime somebody is trying to access a view, it checks if this person is an anonymous user or an authenticated user. If it is an authenticated user, it's going to allow the person visit that particular page. But if the person isn't authenticated, it will redirect the person to the home page. Now let's do this. So we said if the person isn't logged in, we don't want the person to be able to access the home page. So what we're going to do is at the top of this home view, we're going to type in something. We're going to say at login required. And then the next thing we need to do is go to our settings.py file and scroll to the bottom. I already did it earlier. And as the bottom of the settings.py, we need to define where the login URL is. That is, after login required has detected that the person isn't a logged in user, we want to return the person to the login page, but we need to actually declare where the login page is. So we need to type in where the URL is. So in your settings.py, create a variable and name it login URL and equate this to the name of the login URL. That is, if we go to our urls.py, the login URL, we give it a name of login. So whatever name you give the login URL, just come to your settings.py and paste it in there and you are good to go. So we'll go back to our views.py file right now and save this. So once we log out and we try to access the home page, let's try to access the home page right now. We can see we've been redirected to the home page, to the login page, because we aren't logged in users. So the next place that we need to add this is at delete task, because definitely we only want a logged in user to be able to delete and update the task. So we would say at login required, and we would also put it here at login required. So we would save that, and anytime somebody tries to access the home page, let's try that again. You can see we are redirected to the login page. So let's go ahead and log in right now. And once we've logged in, there is something else that we need to write. So in a case where a person is logged in and person tries to access the login page or the register page, we need to write some code that redirects the person back to the home page, because we don't want a person that is already logged in to be able to access the register or the login page. So what we're going to do is we're going to just write 2 lines of code, a conditional and some other line. We're going to say if request dot user dot is underscore authenticated, I'm going to put a colon. So if the user is authenticated, we need to tell Django to redirect the person back to the home page. So we're going to say return redirect, and inside here we'll pass in home dash page. So all we need to do is copy this line of code, or these 2 lines, and also paste it in the login page. Now all we need to do is test our code. So if we try to access the login page, we can see we've been redirected back to the home page. And if we try to access the register page, we can see that we've also been redirected back to the register page. Why? Because we are already logged in, and logged in users we will not allow logged in users to access the login page or register page. Now, what else do we need to add? I believe that is everything we need to add, and I believe we have finished our to-do list websites. So that is all we need to do. Our to-do list website is successfully working and everything is up and running. If you follow this course and you watched from the beginning to the end, I want to say a very big thank you for watching my playlist. I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, the last part of this tutorial is of this playlist is actually deploying our to-do list project to Heroku. So if you want to learn how to deploy to Heroku and make it live for free, just check out the next video. In the next video, I am going to teach you how to deploy a Django project to Heroku for free, and it's going to be live. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more from the Proton guy.